Hey guys, it is Targon doing a Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're gonna go over the final dungeon in our series on Ultimate Deathknight, where I'm taking on the level 20 dungeons with easily accessible champions. So uh, we're gonna be talking about Ice Golem today, and Ice Golem honestly is one of the harder dungeons, perhaps the hardest dungeon I've found anyways. Um, the ice golem hits really hard. He can put a freeze on, and the minions are throwing heal reduction, so it can become really difficult to keep your team alive, and then you constantly have to take on the minions, so it takes a while. But we're going to talk about a strategy that you can use, and honestly, Ultimate Death Knight brings three of the biggest things that I would want to bring into a fight with the Ice Golem. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll pull Ultimate Death Knight up. And again, I haven't really, I think I've leveled him a few times since last time, but I'm keeping him same as with the other videos, right? No masteries on him, no books at all. I took the gloves off, so the gear is not too crazy. There's a lot of 6-star stuff on here, but there's no gloves, so you can get these stats. Even if you're a little limited on the 6-star gear. So again, he's got just under 40k HP, over 4k defense, 200 speed, over 200 accuracy. So what makes Ultimate Death Knight so important for this particular challenge with the Ice Golem is he brings these three things, right? So he's going to bring in a shield. So, Ice Golem hits pretty hard, so having a shield to absorb a lot of that damage is really, really helpful. He's bringing continuous heal, which is going to help us stay at full health if we do take damage. And then he's also bringing an AoE decrease attack, which is really helpful. So the way the AI works on the Ice Golem is it's going to target the minions first until the Ice Golem gets really low. So my ideal champion, honestly, to bring in for decreased attack would normally be Sepulchre Sentinel or someone like that who's got it on their A1. And Sepulchre brings like block debuffs and increased defense. So she would be amazing for this, except because it's a single target, she's going to be using that to target the minions instead. So you want an AoE because that's also got a chance of hitting the boss. Another cool thing here is between the provoke and his passive, where he's going to be taking on the heal reduction onto himself a lot more often. So because of that, that's going to allow our reviver champions to stay up. So if we're going to bring in, say, Syl, right? If Syl gets hit with heal reduction and she dies first, well, no bringing her back if she's our only revive champion. Ultimate Death Knight is going to be taking that, and then Syl's going to be able to bring him back up, which is going to help keep our team going, okay? So let's go ahead and just look at potential teams to bring in. Now, normally, when I hit here, I'm using, bigger champions, but I'm going to take out some of these ones. Now, if you have any of those champions that you saw there, or there's plenty of other really great champions for Ice Golem, by all means, use them. So probably, again, one of the best champions to bring is going to be Deathknight because he's also doing decreased attack on his A1, or not on his A1, I'm sorry, for an AoE decreased attack. His A1 does decrease speed, which is also going to be helpful. I am going to use Syl for this. A Doom Priest would be really, really helpful because then she's going to be cleansing the debuffs off. Another option would be someone who does block debuffs like a Sepulchre Sentinel. But we'll bring in Ultimate Death Knight, and I'll bring in... Yeah, we'll go with... Actually, no, here. We'll go with Apothecary and Arminger. All right, so we're bringing in Arminger because he's got a block revive on his A2, which is hopefully going to be able to take out some of those minions before they are able to pop back up. And I will go over the stats on the team afterwards. You know, again, Syl and Deathknight are pretty well geared and booked, and they have tier 6 masteries on them. The rest of this team doesn't have a whole lot in terms of masteries, and Deathknight does not have any. And if you have not built an Arminger yet, what are you waiting for? He's a great champion. He's a fantastic champion. Um, you know, as an uncommon, it took me so long. It took me so long to build Arminger, and then finally I was like, all right, I guess I better build him. And now I'm using him. I don't use him everywhere, but I use him in a number of locations where he can be really, really good, especially in Doom Tower for some of the bosses there. So if you want to see some cool ways, maybe I'll do a video on him later on. But you see he's hitting pretty hard. Now, Ultimate Deathknight is weak affinity here, so he's going to be taking a little bit more damage from hits, and he's also going to be getting weak hits on his AoE. So you see there, half of them were weak, so he didn't land the decreased attack. That's why I'm trying to bring in Deathknight for this. Now, if you don't have another champion that does AoE decrease attack, don't worry. I think, you know, he's going to be able to hit it often enough that it will help out a lot. You just might want to bring in an extra champion that's healing your team or shielding your team, because this boss is going to be putting some pretty big hits on. And you see having Syl or someone else who can stun here is really, really helpful, because it really takes care of the minions. Another potential really great candidate, if you don't have Syl yet, would be Miscreated Monster, because he's got the AoE stun, and that produces some bigger shields to help keep your team up and running. And, you know, any revive champion can be built for this. Syl is kind of nice because she brings the stuns in. But the other advantage of having Apothecary here, so even if Deathknight is the only one doing decrease attack, because we've got him at 200 speed and we've got Apothecary boosting the speed, Deathknight is going to be going through his cycles pretty quickly, so he should be able to land the decreased attack at least, you know, relatively consistently, especially if we're able to get decreased speed on the boss, which Syl and Deathknight both have. So once the minions are down, then you can put the decreased speed on the boss, slow him down even further. Let's see, is Arminger gonna... no, he didn't have his nuke ready to go. If you're watching the run and you're not just having this full auto, sometimes it can be wise to just pause for a second and try and time it so that Arminger does his A2, his lay to rest, right when one of the minions is about to drop, because then they're not going to be getting back up when the Ice Golem does his big smash. So yeah, this run's taking a little while. You know, Ice Golem is probably one of in general going to be one of the longest running dungeons, just because the minions keep getting back up. So then your team's kind of getting distracted with having to take on the minions as opposed to just focusing on the boss. But the challenge is, because he does that big thing with the freeze, unless you've got block debuffs up all the time, you're going to be getting frozen. Also, it just does a crazy amount of damage. So you're going to need some pretty huge shields. Underpriest Brogni is ideal for this dungeon because he brings a huge shield, and he brings block debuffs, and he heals, and he's throwing HP burns and so forth. So he's a great champion if you have him. But you know, even so, the dungeon can take a little while. Um, you know, if you want to try and speed things up, you could bring in someone like Cold Heart or Royal Guard, but beware because I've tried it before where I start hitting nukes on the boss and he just starts chaining those huge smashing attacks. And so you see there, I mean, that wasn't too bad, but we have decreased attack on. So that's why an AoE decrease attack is so critical in this dungeon. Otherwise, you know, my champions would have gone down to half health. And you see there, I mean, so that his basic attack basically did 20% of Deathknight's health, and that was with the decrease attack on. So you can imagine that because that big I forget, Frigid Vengeance is it doesn't deplete his turn meter, that just triggers automatically. So I've had times where that gets triggered when the turn meter is like right up here, and then he immediately comes back with his other hit and just wipes me out. So that is why you don't want to necessarily just nuke him super fast. You got to make sure that your champions can take the hits. All right, so a little bit over 6 minutes. Obviously, I've had much better times, but this is a team that's going to be much more easily available to most of you. So let's go ahead and go over the team. So again, we'll just kind of look at Ultimate Deathknight. So, you know, again, ideally, I like to have him at more HP, but he's got enough defense. You know, you can get away with a little under the 40k mark. You know, I'd say 200 speed is kind of a good guideline for the level 20 dungeons, 200 accuracy as well. Versus Ice Golem, it can be really handy to have resistance so that you're able to resist the freeze, but that just adds a lot of extra stats for the build. And again, I have him in an Immortal set and a Perception set, just to kind of boost his stats and give him a little bit of extra healing. And let's look at Syl is kind of the big one here in terms of the gearing. I again have her under the 40k HP mark, but she's over 3,000 defense, over 200 speed, well over 200 speed. The faster you can get her, kind of the better, because then she's cycling through faster, she's healing faster. Relentless set can also be really useful on her. Got over 300 accuracy, but this is kind of the build that I use for even higher level dungeons and stuff. Though ideally I do want to bring her HP up a little bit here. Then who else did we have? We had Deathknight. So again, I'm running him in Lifesteal and Perception. Stats, he is over 40,000 HP, almost 2.7k defense, almost 200 speed, over 250 accuracy. So again, the 200 plus accuracy mark is where you really need to be, especially for someone like Deathknight, where the debuffs are such a huge part of his kit. And then we got Apothecary in the Relentless gear. And he's just under 40,000 HP, over 2,000 defense, over 200 speed. Accuracy is not a thing for him. And Arminger, again, Destroy set. Doesn't do anything here, really. He's in that for Doom Tower. And I didn't really change anything on his build. Really, you know, he's probably like the weaker of the champions. I could certainly get his stats higher if I switch from Destroy to other options. Definitely want to try and go with 100% crit rate. Definitely want the accuracy so that he can decrease the enemy turn meter, which helps on the minions as well as the boss here, because the minions are hitting with the heal reduction, so the fewer times they go, the better. In terms of masteries, I think he's got a few masteries on him. Apothecary's got a handful. Deathknight went with the attack and the support. And Syl is kind of the same here. So that's the team, guys. This is a fairly accessible team comp that you can run. Again, if you don't have Deathknight, then you can look for another champion, perhaps that does AoE decrease attack. Tyrell could be a really good option. He doesn't have an AoE, but I do believe his A1 is kind of programmed so that if the decreased attack is on another champion, he'll target one that doesn't have it with his A1. And he does bring decreased defense as well. So he's one of my favorite epic champions. Some other options here. Again, I think Doom Priest would be ideal for this dungeon if you have her, because she has the cleanse. So when you get frozen or when the heal reduction comes on, she's taking that off. Again, Miscreated Monster can be really helpful just because he's putting the shield, he's putting the stun, he can heal himself and do ally protection, which is really nice. Lodric Falconheart could be another great option. He's got his shield here. Let's see, as far as epics go, I've moved a whole bunch of my epics over to the vaults. For healers, you could maybe go with like Rector Drath, but he's going to be weak affinity. If you have Seer, she is really going to help speed things up in the waves. But so just look for champions that have AoE decrease attack, really going to help you survive. Also, Dark Elhain is probably worth taking to 60 just for this dungeon because her nuke triggers every time someone gets frozen. Ugo would be another ideal champion if you build her with enough resistance, especially to be able to resist the freezes, then she can cleanse it off. If you don't have another AoE decrease attack champion, you could try one that has a single target and then bring in like a Skull Crusher for a counterattack. That is going to be super slow, but it does work. I have done that before for some of them. And it does help kind of with decreasing the damage that you're taking. All right, so that's the dungeon. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you are using Ultimate Deathknight. I think that, even though he's weak affinity for level 20 dungeon here, I think for what we need for Ice Golem, he's just such a great champion. So highly recommend you considering him in your lineup if you're struggling at any point in the Ice Golem, especially even just considering he's boosting everybody's defense if you use him as the leader, right? So that's going to help you be able to, plus 30% defense is going to help reduce how much damage you're taking. So, and you saw, if you're building everyone with at least 2,000 defense, that's going to really, really help so that you're not getting wiped out every time he does his frigid vengeance on you. Okay? So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you at the next video.